The first encounter between humanity and the Arindar Collective had been nothing short of miraculous. For decades, Earth's scientists and diplomats worked tirelessly to establish peaceful relations with the advanced galactic civilization. The aliens, with their sleek silver ships and shimmering energy fields, seemed like gods compared to the primitive technology of humankind. Yet, despite their differences, there was hope. Hope that humanity could learn, grow, and take its place among the stars. Daniel Carter stood in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, his heart pounding as he listened to the accusations being hurled at him and his people. Samantha Brooks, a fiery negotiator who never backed down from a fight, stood beside him, her hands clenched into fists. They had spent months defending Earth against claims of treaty violations, but it was clear now that their efforts were futile. The council members, seated in a vast semicircle above them, looked down with cold indifference. "You have exploited resources on unclaimed planets," one of the councilors declared, their voice echoing through the chamber. "You have disregarded our laws and shown no respect for the balance we have maintained for millennia." Daniel swallowed hard. He knew the charges weren't entirely baseless. Some rogue mining corporations back on Earth had indeed pushed boundaries, venturing into territories they shouldn't have touched. But those actions were not sanctioned by the global government. Humanity was still learning, still figuring out how to navigate this new cosmic neighborhood. Why couldn't the council see that? Samantha stepped forward, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. "We acknowledge mistakes were made, but punishing all of humanity is unjust. We are willing to make reparations, to work together to correct these errors. Please, give us another chance." Her words hung in the air, met with silence. The council members exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Then, without further discussion, the verdict came, a unanimous decision to banish Earth from interstellar society. The hyperspace routes connecting humanity to the rest of the galaxy would be sealed off, leaving them trapped within their own solar system. As Daniel and Samantha left the council chambers, the weight of failure pressed heavily on their shoulders. Outside, reporters swarmed them, shouting questions about what had happened. Neither of them spoke. How could they explain to billions of people that their dreams of exploring the stars had been crushed? That they were alone again? Back on Earth, chaos erupted almost immediately. News outlets broadcast the council's decision around the clock, sparking panic and outrage. Economies crumbled overnight as trade routes with alien species disappeared. Factories that once produced goods for intergalactic markets shut down, throwing millions out of work. Protests filled the streets, with angry citizens demanding answers from their leaders. In the midst of the turmoil, Daniel struggled to find meaning in the disaster. He replayed the events in his mind over and over, wondering if he could have done something differently. Had he failed humanity? Was there a way to salvage even a fraction of what they'd lost? Meanwhile, Samantha threw herself into research, determined to understand why the council had acted so harshly. She pored over documents detailing every interaction between humans and the Arindar Collective, searching for clues. Deep down, she refused to believe this was the end. Humanity had faced challenges before: wars, plagues, natural disasters, and always found a way to survive. Surely they could rise above this too. As days turned into weeks, a quiet resolve began to spread across the planet. People started talking about rebuilding, not just economically, but spiritually. If the galaxy didn't want them, then perhaps they didn't need the galaxy. Maybe it was time to forge a new path, one that didn't rely on anyone else's approval. Little did they know, hidden beneath the surface of despair, seeds of innovation were already beginning to sprout. Somewhere in a dimly lit lab, a young scientist named Laura Simmons stared at a set of equations scribbled on a whiteboard. Her eyes sparkled with determination. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The weeks following the banishment were some of the darkest in human history. The global economy, once thriving on trade with alien civilizations, crumbled under the weight of isolation. Factories that had produced goods for interstellar markets now sat empty, their machines silent, and gathering dust. Unemployment soared, and food shortages became a grim reality as imported crops from distant planets vanished overnight. People lined up for hours outside grocery stores, only to find shelves nearly bare. Fear and frustration simmered just below the surface, threatening to boil over at any moment. Ethan Moore, a former diplomat who had been part of the failed negotiation team with the Galactic Council, wandered through the streets of New York City one rainy afternoon. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened, and his face etched with exhaustion. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had personally failed humanity. Everywhere he looked, he saw despair. Homeless families huddled under makeshift shelters, shop windows boarded up, and angry protesters chanting slogans demanding justice. Ethan felt powerless, but deep down, he knew he couldn't give up. Humanity needed hope, and someone had to provide it. Across town, Laura Simmons worked late into the night in her cramped university lab. She barely noticed the cold pizza sitting untouched on her desk, or the dark circles forming under her eyes. Her mind was consumed by a single idea: finding a way to break through the blockade imposed by the Galactic Council. While most people focused on surviving day to day, Laura believed that humanity's future depended on reaching beyond its borders. But how? The Council had sealed off all hyperspace routes leading to Earth, cutting them off from the rest of the galaxy. Conventional methods wouldn't work. They needed something entirely new. Laura wasn't alone in her quest. Alex Bennett, a rogue engineer known for his unconventional approach to problem-solving, had joined forces with her after hearing about her ambitious plans. Unlike many scientists who followed strict protocols, Alex thrived on experimentation and risk-taking. Together, they began brainstorming ideas for bypassing the Council's restrictions. One evening, as they pored over blueprints and data charts, Alex suggested using quantum entanglement to create stable portals between distant points in space. It was a wild concept, one that most experts dismissed as impossible. But Laura saw potential. Their first prototype was crude: a jumble of wires, circuits, and glowing crystals scavenged from old alien artifacts left behind before the banishment. When they powered it up for the first time, the device sputtered and sparked, emitting a faint hum that filled the room. Nothing spectacular happened, but it was enough to prove that the idea had merit. Over the next few weeks, they refined the design, testing it repeatedly until they achieved a brief but stable connection to a point just outside Earth's orbit. Word of their success spread quickly, drawing both excitement and skepticism. Some hailed Laura and Alex as visionaries, while others dismissed their work as reckless tinkering with forces they didn't fully understand. Despite the criticism, their project gained traction when a demonstration caught the attention of government officials desperate for solutions. A small group of politicians and military leaders visited the lab, watching intently as Laura activated the device. For several tense seconds, a shimmering portal appeared, revealing a glimpse of stars on the other side before collapsing. Though fleeting, the display was enough to convince the officials to fund further development. But funding came with challenges. Resources required for building a larger, more powerful version of the device were scarce, scattered across dangerous asteroid belts and remote regions of the solar system. Mining operations would need to expand significantly, requiring skilled crews willing to take enormous risks. Captain Ryan Foster, a seasoned pilot with years of experience navigating treacherous space environments, was tasked with assembling a fleet of mining ships. Alongside him was Mia Dawson, a geologist whose expertise in identifying rare materials proved invaluable. As preparations began, whispers of hope rippled through society. People started talking about the possibility of reclaiming their place among the stars. Yet, not everyone shared this optimism. Skeptics warned that pursuing such advanced technology too quickly could lead to disaster. Others feared retaliation from the Galactic Council if humanity succeeded in breaking free. Still, amidst the uncertainty, one thing was clear: humanity was determined to fight back, not with weapons or aggression, but with ingenuity and resilience. In quiet moments, Ethan found himself thinking about the future. If Laura and Alex's project succeeded, it would change everything. Earth might no longer be a forgotten world, isolated and abandoned. Instead, it could become a beacon of innovation, proving to the galaxy that humanity was stronger than anyone realized. The decision to expand mining operations into the farthest reaches of the solar system was met with both excitement and trepidation. Captain Ryan Foster stood on the bridge of his ship, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. He had spent years navigating asteroid fields and dodging cosmic debris. But this mission felt different. The fate of humanity rested on their ability to gather the rare materials needed for Laura Simmons' groundbreaking project. Failure wasn't an option. Beside him, Mia Dawson adjusted the settings on her scanning equipment. Her sharp eyes scanned the readings flashing across the screen, searching for signs of the specific minerals they needed. "There," she said suddenly, pointing to a cluster of asteroids floating in the distance. "That's where we'll find them." Ryan nodded, his expression grim. The target area was located in one of the most dangerous regions of the Kuiper Belt, a chaotic zone filled with jagged rocks and unpredictable gravitational forces. It wouldn't be easy, but they didn't have time to waste. Every delay meant more suffering back on Earth, more families going hungry, more businesses shutting down. They had to succeed. As the fleet of mining ships approached the asteroid field, tension crackled through the air. Each vessel carried a team of skilled workers, all aware of the risks involved. Collisions were common in such dense areas, and even the smallest mistake could spell disaster. Still, morale remained high. For many, this mission represented a chance to do something meaningful, to contribute to humanity's survival in a tangible way. Mia suited up and prepared to lead a team onto one of the larger asteroids. Her suit was equipped with advanced tools designed to extract samples quickly and efficiently. As she stepped onto the rocky surface, she marveled at the strange beauty of the alien landscape. Glowing veins of crystalline material ran through the rock, like rivers frozen in time. This was what they had come for, rare elements that could power the next phase of Laura's experiments. Back on Earth, progress continued at a frantic pace. Laura and Alex worked tirelessly in their lab, refining the design of the quantum entanglement device. With each new batch of materials delivered from the mining missions, they grew closer to building a prototype capable of creating stable wormholes. But the work was grueling, and the pressure was immense. Sleep became a luxury neither of them could afford. One evening, as Laura stared at a complex equation scrawled across the whiteboard, Alex leaned against the desk, sipping lukewarm coffee. "You know," he said, breaking the silence, "we're not just building a machine here. We're rewriting history." Laura glanced at him, her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean, if this works, we won't just be breaking free of the blockade. We'll be proving something to ourselves and to the galaxy. That we're not some weak, insignificant species. We're survivors, innovators, and maybe, just maybe, we deserve a seat at the table after all." His words lingered in the air, giving Laura pause. She had always seen their work as a means to an end, a way to restore Earth's connection to the stars. But Alex was right. If they succeeded, it would send a powerful message. Humanity wouldn't beg or plead for acceptance. It would earn it through sheer determination and ingenuity. Meanwhile, Ethan Moore traveled across the globe, speaking to communities struggling under the weight of isolation. He shared stories of the mining teams risking their lives in space, of scientists working around the clock in labs, and of ordinary people finding ways to adapt and persevere. His speeches weren't polished or rehearsed. They were raw and honest, born out of his own guilt and hope. Slowly but surely, he began to inspire others to believe in the possibility of a brighter future. But challenges loomed on the horizon. Rumors of sabotage spread when a shipment of critical materials disappeared en route to the lab. Suspicion fell on anti-technology extremists who viewed Laura's project as a threat to Earth's natural balance. Tensions mounted, and security measures tightened. Despite these obstacles, the team pressed on, driven by the knowledge that failure would leave humanity trapped forever. In quiet moments, Laura often thought about what lay beyond the blockade. What worlds awaited them? What opportunities? The answers were still out of reach, but she clung to the belief that humanity's potential was limitless. One day soon, they would step through the portal and reclaim their place among the stars, not as victims, but as pioneers. The mining operation in the Kuiper Belt was proving to be more challenging than anyone had anticipated. Captain Ryan Foster guided his ship through a dense cluster of asteroids, each one jagged and unpredictable. The crew worked tirelessly, extracting rare minerals from the icy rocks, while keeping a close eye on their surroundings. Every movement required precision. Every decision had consequences. One wrong calculation could send an asteroid hurtling toward their ship or tear apart their equipment. Mia Dawson led her team with quiet determination. She moved across the surface of a massive asteroid, her boots crunching against the frozen crust. Her suit's sensors beeped steadily as she scanned for deposits of crystalline material. "Over here," she called out, pointing to a glowing vein embedded in the rock. Two members of her team hurried over, setting up drills and extraction tools. The work was slow and painstaking, but they couldn't afford to rush. These materials were too valuable to waste. Back on the ship, Ryan monitored the team's progress from the safety of the bridge. His fingers hovered over the controls, ready to intervene if anything went wrong. He knew the risks all too well. Asteroid fields like this one were notorious for sudden shifts in gravitational pull, which could send tons of debris spiraling toward unsuspecting miners. But despite the danger, he felt a flicker of pride watching his crew work together so seamlessly. They weren't just gathering resources, they were laying the foundation for humanity's future. As the days passed, the fleet began to uncover more than just raw materials. During one routine scan, Mia noticed something unusual, a faint energy signal emanating from deep within the Kuiper Belt. At first, she dismissed it as interference from their own equipment, but when the signal persisted, curiosity got the better of her. She reported her findings to Ryan, who agreed to investigate further. The source of the signal turned out to be a small icy moon orbiting a distant dwarf planet. Its surface was scarred with craters and cracks, but beneath the frost lay something extraordinary. Using advanced scanning technology, Mia discovered traces of structures buried deep within the ice. "This isn't natural," she said breathlessly into her communicator. "These patterns, they look artificial." News of the discovery spread quickly back to Earth. Laura Simmons listened intently as Mia described the strange formations during a video call. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could these ruins belong to an ancient civilization? If so, what secrets might they hold? Without hesitation, Laura urged Ryan and Mia to explore further. Whatever they found could change everything. Excavation efforts began immediately. The team used thermal drills to bore through layers of ice, revealing fragments of metal and stone etched with intricate designs. Each piece was carefully documented and sent back to Earth for analysis. As more artifacts emerged, excitement grew among the scientists working on Laura's project. These relics seemed to predate even the oldest known civilizations in the galaxy, hinting at a forgotten era of advanced technology. But progress came at a cost. The harsh conditions took a toll on the crew. Equipment malfunctioned frequently due to the extreme cold, and communication systems struggled to maintain a stable connection with Earth. Morale dipped as fatigue set in, and some began to question whether the risks outweighed the rewards. Still, Mia refused to give up. She reminded her team that they were doing something no one else had ever done before. They were uncovering pieces of history that could reshape humanity's understanding of the universe. Meanwhile, tensions rose back on Earth. Rumors of sabotage continued to circulate, fueled by the disappearance of another shipment of critical materials. Security teams scrambled to protect the lab where Laura and Alex worked, knowing that any disruption could derail their progress. Despite the mounting pressure, Laura remained focused. Every artifact brought back from the Kuiper Belt brought them closer to unlocking the secrets of faster-than-light travel. In quiet moments, Ryan found himself gazing at the stars, wondering what lay beyond the blockade. Would humanity ever truly break free? Or would they remain trapped, forever looking outward but unable to reach the vastness beyond? For now, there were no answers, only questions and the unrelenting drive to keep moving forward. As the excavation continued, Mia uncovered a particularly large fragment of alien metal. Etched into its surface were symbols unlike anything she'd seen before. Carefully, she photographed the markings and transmitted the images to Laura. This was more than just a historical find. It was a puzzle waiting to be solved. And somewhere within those cryptic designs might lie the key to humanity's salvation. Back on Earth, Laura Simmons stared at the images sent by Mia Dawson. The alien symbols etched into the icy artifact were unlike anything she had ever seen. Delicate curves and sharp angles arranged in patterns that seemed almost musical. She leaned closer to her computer screen, her fingers tracing the shapes as if trying to feel their meaning. Beside her, Alex Bennett sipped his coffee, his eyes wide with fascination. "This is incredible," he said finally, breaking the silence. "It's like a language, but not one we've encountered before." Laura nodded slowly. "Exactly. And if we can decipher it, we might find something worth more than gold." Her voice was steady, but her mind raced with possibilities. These markings could hold the key to advanced technology, perhaps even the kind needed to perfect their quantum entanglement device. To tackle the puzzle, they brought in Zachary Hayes, a young tech prodigy whose expertise in decoding complex systems had earned him a reputation as a problem solver. Zachary adjusted his glasses and studied the symbols carefully. "It's going to take time," he admitted, "but I think I can crack it." For days, the team worked tirelessly. Laura and Zachary pored over every detail of the artifact, comparing the symbols to known languages from both human history and alien civilizations. Alex handled the technical side, programming algorithms to identify patterns and connections. Slowly, fragments of meaning began to emerge. Some symbols represented numbers, others concepts like movement or energy. It was painstaking work, but progress fueled their determination. Meanwhile, in the Kuiper Belt, Mia and her team faced mounting challenges. The icy moon, where they had discovered the ruins, was proving to be unstable. Tremors shook the surface unpredictably, forcing them to evacuate several times. Equipment froze or malfunctioned in the extreme cold, and communication with Earth grew increasingly unreliable. Still, Mia refused to abandon the site. "We're so close," she told her crew during a brief rest period. "Whatever this place holds, it's worth the risk." One evening, as Mia supervised the extraction of another artifact, her scanner picked up strange readings beneath the ice. A massive structure loomed below the surface, far larger than anything they had uncovered so far. Excited, she relayed the discovery to Ryan, who immediately organized a deeper excavation effort. Using thermal drills and reinforced tools, the team carved through layers of frost until they reached the object, a towering doorway made of an unknown metallic material. The sight left everyone speechless. The doorway stood nearly 20 feet tall, its surface covered in the same intricate symbols found on the smaller artifacts. At its center was a circular indentation, glowing faintly as though alive. Mia approached cautiously, her heart pounding. When she touched the surface, the glow intensified, and a low hum filled the air. Back on Earth, Laura received the transmission just as she and her team completed their initial translation of the alien language. According to their findings, the symbols described a device capable of generating stable wormholes, portals that could connect distant points in space instantly. The implications were staggering. If humanity could replicate this technology, they wouldn't need hyperspace routes controlled by the Galactic Council. They could chart their own course among the stars. But there was a catch. The instructions hinted at a requirement for immense energy, far beyond what current human technology could produce. Laura frowned as she read the notes aloud to Alex and Zachary. "This isn't just about building a machine," she said. "It's about powering it. We'll need materials we don't even have yet." Alex rubbed his temples, deep in thought. Then we adapt. We innovate. That's what we do best. As the pieces fell into place, hope began to spread across Earth. News outlets reported on the discoveries in the Kuiper Belt, sparking renewed optimism among the population. People talked about the possibility of reclaiming their place in the galaxy, not as outsiders, but as pioneers. Even Ethan Moore, who had once carried the weight of failure, felt a spark of excitement. During a speech in Chicago, he reminded his audience that humanity had always thrived when faced with impossible odds. In the depths of space, Maya stood before the ancient doorway, her breath fogging up her visor. She didn't know what lay beyond it, but she knew one thing for certain. Humanity was ready to find out. Whatever secrets the galaxy held, they would uncover them together. The discovery of the ancient doorway in the Kuiper Belt sent shockwaves through Earth's scientific community. Laura Simmons and her team worked around the clock, piecing together fragments of knowledge from the alien symbols etched into the artifact. Each new revelation brought them closer to understanding how the device functioned and what it would take to activate it. The circular indentation at the center of the doorway seemed to be a control mechanism designed to accept some form of energy input, but the specifics remained elusive. Zachary Hayes spent hours coding simulations, trying to replicate the conditions described in the translated texts. His computer screens flickered with equations and diagrams as he tested various combinations of power sources and frequencies. "If we get this wrong," he muttered to himself one late night, "we could destroy the entire structure, or worse." Laura nodded grimly when he shared his concerns. They couldn't afford mistakes. The materials required for such an experiment were rare and difficult to obtain, especially under the strain of Earth's isolation. Every resource had to be used wisely. Despite the pressure, she reminded herself that humanity had overcome impossible challenges before. This was no different. Meanwhile, tensions on Earth began to rise. Not everyone supported the project. Some groups argued that pursuing advanced technology too quickly could destabilize the planet itself. Anti-technology extremists grew bolder, staging protests outside research facilities and spreading fear among the public. One evening, a bomb threat forced the evacuation of Laura's lab, delaying their progress by several crucial days. Security teams tightened protocols, but the risks remained high. Amidst the chaos, Olivia Reed found herself caught in the middle. As a logistics coordinator for the mining operations in the Kuiper Belt, she had access to critical shipments of materials destined for Laura's experiments. Her role was vital, yet she struggled with doubt. She had always believed in caution, fearing that humanity's ambition might outpace its wisdom. When approached by members of an anti-technology group, she hesitated, but not for long. Convinced that sabotaging the project would protect Earth, she leaked sensitive information about upcoming supply routes. The betrayal came to light when one of the shipments disappeared en route to the lab. Investigators traced the breach back to Olivia, who confessed without resistance. Summoned to a meeting with government officials, she defended her actions passionately. "You're rushing into something none of you fully understand," she said, her voice trembling. "What if activating that doorway triggers a disaster? Are you willing to risk everything? For what? Revenge?" Her words struck a nerve. Many in the room shared her fears, but Laura spoke up, her tone firm yet calm. "This isn't about revenge," she said. "It's about survival. About proving that we can adapt, grow, and thrive, even when the odds are against us. Yes, there are risks, but staying trapped here, dependent on dwindling resources, is a greater risk." Olivia's confession divided opinions. While some called for her immediate arrest, others saw her concerns as valid. In the end, she was placed under house arrest, her movements monitored closely. Yet, something unexpected happened during her confinement. As she read reports about the discoveries in the Kuiper Belt and listened to updates from Mia Dawson's team, her perspective began to shift. Maybe the project wasn't just about escaping Earth. It was about hope, about giving humanity a future worth fighting for. Determined to make amends, Olivia volunteered to assist in securing the final components needed for the experiment. Her knowledge of logistics proved invaluable, helping streamline delivery processes and prevent further breaches. Though trust was slow to rebuild, her efforts earned her a tentative place back within the team. As preparations neared completion, excitement mingled with anxiety. Captain Ryan Foster and his crew returned to Earth, bringing crates filled with newly mined materials. Maya accompanied them, her eyes shining with pride as she handed over the last artifact recovered from the icy moon. "We did it," she said simply, addressing the assembled scientists. "Now it's your turn." Laura took a deep breath, staring at the array of resources spread before her. Everything they had worked for led to this moment. Success or failure hung in the balance, but as she looked around at the faces of her colleagues, tired, determined, hopeful, she felt a surge of confidence. Humanity had been pushed to its limits, but it had risen stronger than ever. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The final preparations for the experiment were underway, and the atmosphere in Laura Simmons' lab was electric. Every piece of equipment had been double-checked, every calculation reviewed. The ancient alien doorway, now reconstructed in a secure facility on Earth, stood at the center of the room like a silent sentinel. Its glowing indentation pulsed faintly, as though alive, waiting to be activated. Laura moved between workstations, her mind racing with last-minute details. This was it, the moment they had been working toward. Zachary Hayes sat hunched over his laptop, fine-tuning the energy input sequence. His fingers flew across the keyboard as he adjusted parameters and ran simulations. "We're almost there," he said, glancing up at Laura. "But I still can't guarantee stability. If the energy flow spikes too high, we'll handle it." Alex Bennett interrupted, his voice calm but firm. He had spent days reinforcing the containment systems around the doorway, ensuring that any unexpected surges would be contained. "We've planned for every scenario. Trust me." Laura nodded, though her stomach churned with nerves. Trust wasn't the issue. It was the unknown that worried her. They were dealing with technology far beyond human understanding, created by a civilization long gone. What if they'd misunderstood something? What if activating the device triggered consequences they couldn't predict? Outside the lab, tensions simmered among the public. News of the upcoming test had spread quickly, sparking both excitement and fear. Protesters gathered near the facility, holding signs that read, "Don't play God," and "Save our planet." Anti-technology groups warned of catastrophic outcomes, while supporters cheered on the scientists, calling them heroes. Ethan Moore addressed the crowds via live broadcast, urging patience and faith in humanity's ability to adapt and overcome. His words resonated with many, but skepticism lingered. Inside the lab, Mia Dawson joined the team after returning from the Kuiper Belt. Her experience with the alien artifacts made her insights invaluable. She studied the doorway closely, comparing its symbols to notes from the icy moon where it had been discovered. "This isn't just a machine," she said thoughtfully. "It feels intentional, like whoever built it wanted us to find it." "That's comforting," Alex muttered sarcastically, earning a sharp look from Laura. Despite his sarcasm, there was truth in Mia's observation. The precision of the design, the intricate language, and even the location of the ruins suggested purpose. Perhaps humanity wasn't meant to remain isolated forever. As the countdown began, the team gathered around the control panel. Each member had a role to play. Zachary monitored energy levels, Alex managed the containment systems, and Laura oversaw the activation process. Maya stood nearby, ready to interpret any changes in the doorway's behavior. Everyone held their breath as Laura initiated the sequence. At first, nothing happened. Then a low hum filled the room, growing louder as energy coursed through the device. The circular indentation brightened, casting an eerie glow across the walls. Suddenly, the air seemed to ripple, and a shimmering portal emerged within the doorway. It swirled with colors unlike anything they had ever seen, shifting and dancing like liquid light. "It's working," Zachary exclaimed, his eyes wide with awe. But the celebration was short-lived. Alarms blared as the energy readings spiked dangerously high. Sparks flew from the control panel, forcing Laura to step back. "Shut it down," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Alex worked frantically to stabilize the system, sweat dripping down his face. "I'm trying, but the feedback loop is destabilizing." For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed the entire structure might collapse. Then, just as suddenly as it had surged, the energy stabilized. The portal remained intact, its surface smooth and steady. Silence fell over the room as everyone stared at the glowing gateway. Laura exhaled slowly, her hands trembling. "We did it," she whispered. "We actually did it." Mia stepped forward cautiously, peering into the portal. On the other side, stars twinkled against the blackness of space, a distant region untouched by the Galactic Council's blockade. For the first time in years, humanity had a way out. But the victory was bittersweet. As the team celebrated, questions lingered. Where did this technology come from? Who had left it behind? And most importantly, what awaited them on the other side? These answers would have to wait. For now, they had proven one thing: humanity was no longer trapped. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, with courage, determination, and hope. The aftermath of the successful portal test was a whirlwind of emotions. The team in Laura Simmons' lab stood frozen, staring at the shimmering gateway that now connected Earth to an uncharted region of space. For a moment, no one spoke. The weight of what they had achieved, and the unknowns it carried, pressed heavily on their shoulders. They had defied the Galactic Council's blockade, but this was only the beginning. Laura broke the silence first. "We need to send a probe through," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "We can't risk sending people until we know what's on the other side." Zachary Hayes nodded, already typing commands into his laptop. Within minutes, a small drone equipped with cameras and sensors was prepped for launch. Alex Bennett double-checked the drone systems, ensuring it could withstand any unexpected conditions. "This thing has to tell us everything," he said, glancing at the swirling portal. "If there's even a hint of danger, we pull back immediately." Mia Dawson watched intently as the drone approached the threshold of the portal. Her heart raced as the machine passed through the glowing surface without resistance. On the monitor, the feed flickered briefly before stabilizing, revealing a breathtaking view of a distant star system. Alien planets hung in the sky, their surfaces painted in hues of blue, green, and gold. It was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. "Look at that," Mia breathed, pointing to one of the planets. Its atmosphere shimmered with colors that suggested water and vegetation. "It's habitable." The discovery sent a wave of excitement through the lab. This wasn't just a random patch of space. It was a potential new home. Resources, opportunities, and freedom awaited them beyond the portal. But with these possibilities came questions. Why had the ancient civilization chosen this specific location? Was it left intentionally for civilizations like theirs to find? As data streamed in from the drone, the team worked tirelessly to analyze every detail. Initial scans confirmed the presence of abundant natural resources, including minerals and compounds needed to sustain life. There were signs of untouched ecosystems teeming with biodiversity. It seemed too good to be true, yet the evidence was undeniable. Back on Earth, news of the breakthrough spread rapidly. Governments convened emergency meetings to discuss next steps, while citizens celebrated in the streets. Hope surged across the planet, reigniting dreams of exploration and prosperity. Ethan Moore addressed crowds gathered outside the facility, his voice filled with cautious optimism. "This is not just a victory for science," he declared. "It's a victory for all of humanity. We've taken our first step toward a brighter future." But not everyone shared his enthusiasm. Skeptics argued that rushing into the unknown could lead to disaster. Anti-technology groups renewed their protests, warning of unforeseen consequences. Even some scientists questioned whether humanity was ready to handle such advanced technology responsibly. Amidst the debate, Olivia Reed quietly volunteered to help prepare for the next phase of exploration. Her betrayal still weighed on her conscience, but she saw this as an opportunity to make amends. She assisted in organizing supply chains for future missions, ensuring that resources reached the right teams efficiently. Slowly, trust began to rebuild between her and the others. Meanwhile, Laura and her team faced another challenge, deciding who would lead the first manned mission through the portal. The risks were immense, but so were the rewards. After much deliberation, Captain Ryan Foster was chosen to command the expedition. His experience navigating treacherous environments in the Kuiper Belt made him the ideal candidate. Ryan accepted the responsibility with quiet determination. As he prepared for the journey, he reflected on how far humanity had come since the banishment. What once seemed impossible was now within reach. He thought about the sacrifices made along the way. The miners who braved icy asteroids, the scientists who worked tirelessly in labs, and the countless ordinary people who refused to give up hope. On the day of the launch, the entire world watched as Ryan and his crew stepped through the portal. The image of the swirling gateway lingered on screens, a symbol of humanity's resilience and ingenuity. No one knew what lay ahead, but one thing was certain: humanity was no longer content to remain trapped. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together, with courage, unity, and the unshakable belief that they could shape their own destiny. The journey through the portal was unlike anything Captain Ryan Foster and his crew had ever experienced. As they stepped into the shimmering gateway, a strange sensation washed over them. A mix of weightlessness and warmth, as though the portal itself was alive and guiding them forward. For a brief moment, everything went dark. Then light burst forth, revealing a breathtaking view of the alien star system on the other side. Ryan gripped the controls of their small scout ship tightly, his eyes scanning the horizon. The planet identified by the drone loomed large in front of them, its surface a vibrant mosaic of blues, greens, and golds. Clouds swirled lazily in its atmosphere, hinting at weather patterns similar to Earth's. "This is it," he said softly, his voice filled with awe. "Our first real step beyond the blockade." Mia Dawson, seated beside him, adjusted her instruments to gather more data. Her hands moved quickly but steadily as she recorded readings from the planet's surface. "The air is breathable," she announced after a few moments. "And there's water, lots of it. This could be our new home." The crew spent hours orbiting the planet, mapping its terrain and identifying potential landing sites. They spotted vast oceans, sprawling forests, and mountain ranges that stretched endlessly into the sky. There were signs of life too, plants that glowed faintly under the twin suns of the system and creatures that darted across the landscape like shadows. It was a world brimming with possibilities, untouched by the Galactic Council or any other advanced civilization. Back on Earth, the news ignited a firestorm of excitement. Images transmitted by the crew captivated audiences worldwide. Scientists pored over the data, confirming what Mia had already reported. This planet was not only habitable, but also rich in resources: metals, minerals, and compounds essential for rebuilding Earth's economy were abundant. For the first time in years, people dared to dream of a future free from scarcity and hardship. But the discovery wasn't without challenges. During one pass over the planet, the crew detected unusual energy signatures emanating from a remote region near the equator. Curious, Ryan decided to investigate. As they descended closer, they found themselves staring at towering structures half buried in the jungle. These weren't natural formations. They were ruins, much like the ones discovered in the Kuiper Belt. "This can't be a coincidence," Mia murmured, her voice tinged with wonder. "Whoever built these must have been connected to the ancient civilization that left the doorway." Exploring the ruins proved difficult. Dense vegetation blocked their path, and strange magnetic fields interfered with their equipment. Still, they managed to retrieve fragments of artifacts covered in familiar symbols. When sent back to Earth, these relics confirmed Laura Simmons' theory. Humanity had stumbled upon remnants of an interstellar network designed to guide younger civilizations toward growth and self-sufficiency. While the crew continued their exploration, debates raged on Earth about how to proceed. Some argued for immediate colonization, believing it was the key to survival. Others urged caution, warning against repeating past mistakes. Ethan Moore addressed the United Nations, urging unity. "This isn't just about finding a new home," he said. "It's about building something better than what we lost. Let's learn from our history instead of repeating it." As preparations began for larger missions, Ryan and his team returned to Earth, carrying samples, images, and stories of the new world. Their report concluded with a single sentence: "This planet is ours, for now." The unspoken implication hung in the air. If humanity wanted to claim it permanently, they would need to prove themselves worthy, not just to each other, but to the galaxy watching silently from afar. In quiet moments, Laura thought about the road ahead. The portal had given them freedom, but it also carried responsibility. Humanity had been given a second chance, and how they used it would define their legacy. She glanced at the glowing doorway, its surface rippling softly. Somewhere beyond it lay challenges, opportunities, and perhaps even answers to questions they hadn't yet asked. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The transformation of Earth began almost immediately after the discovery of the new planet. Humanity, once isolated and struggling to survive, now had a clear path forward. The portal became a symbol of hope, a gateway to a future no one had dared to imagine during the darkest days of the Galactic Council's banishment. Factories reopened, this time producing materials needed for colonization efforts. Scientists worked around the clock to develop sustainable technologies, ensuring that humanity would not repeat the mistakes that led to their isolation in the first place. Ethan Moore stood before a crowd gathered outside the newly constructed United Systems Alliance headquarters, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for humanity," he said, looking out at the sea of faces. "We have proven that we are stronger than despair, more resilient than fear. This is not just about reclaiming our place among the stars. It's about building something better, something lasting." His words resonated deeply. People across the globe felt a renewed sense of purpose. Families volunteered to join colonization missions, eager to help establish settlements on the alien world they had named Horizon. Engineers designed modular habitats capable of adapting to unfamiliar environments, while farmers experimented with growing crops suited to Horizon's unique soil and climate. Humanity was preparing to thrive, not just survive. Laura Simmons watched the progress unfold from her lab, her heart swelling with pride. The device she and her team had built, the quantum entanglement generator, was now being replicated on a larger scale, creating multiple portals to ease the movement of people and supplies between Earth and Horizon. What had started as a desperate attempt to break free from isolation had evolved into a project that united humanity like never before. Even Alex Bennett, who rarely showed emotion, couldn't help but smile as he oversaw the construction of the new generators. Mia Dawson returned to Horizon with the second wave of settlers, her eyes wide with wonder as she stepped onto its surface again. This time, she wasn't alone. Behind her stretched a convoy of ships carrying tools, seeds, and eager pioneers ready to build a new life. Together, they cleared land, planted crops, and erected homes. It was hard work, but there was laughter too, a shared joy in creating something from nothing. As months turned into years, Horizon flourished. Settlements grew into towns, then cities, each one blending human ingenuity with the planet's natural beauty. The ruins discovered near the equator became a focal point for research, offering glimpses into the ancient civilization that had guided humanity here. Laura often visited the site, studying the artifacts alongside Mia and Zachary. Slowly, pieces of the puzzle came together, revealing a message left behind by the builders. To those who find this, remember that growth comes not from conquest, but from understanding. Word of Horizon's success spread beyond Earth's borders. Other marginalized species, drawn by stories of humanity's resilience, sought partnerships. Trade agreements were forged, alliances formed. For the first time, humanity found itself leading rather than following, a beacon of innovation and unity in a fractured galaxy. Yet, the shadow of the Galactic Council lingered. Ships patrolling distant edges of known space occasionally detected faint signals suggesting they were being watched. But instead of fear, humanity felt resolve. They had earned their place through determination and cooperation, proving that strength wasn't measured by power or dominance, but by the ability to adapt and grow. In quiet moments, Ethan thought about the journey that had brought them here. From the despair of banishment to the triumph of Horizon, humanity had emerged stronger than ever, not because of revenge or aggression, but because of hope and perseverance. He smiled as he gazed at the night sky, knowing that somewhere out there, others were watching. And when the time came to face them, humanity would be ready.